Hello, hello. Give me a moment here as I connect us into Facebook. Get that all set up. Happy Tuesday, everyone. We're going to give it a couple of minutes here for those of you that are joining in to hop on in, to grab your pen and paper, make sure you've got some hydration around you here. And I can see that I am also inside of, sorry, give me one sec here. You know, just a little bit of effort navigating two rooms. Hi, Mary Lou, how are you? Amazing. Okay, so I always love to start these off making sure that you can use the chat bar on the side, because this is where your questions will go that you have. So if you could do me a favor and just type in there, hi, hello, that would be fantastic. Welcome to day 2. My name is Jen Pike. For those of you who might be joining me for the first time today, this is a 4-part, 4-day free PCOS series that I am doing to help to bring you education around this. So we're not going to solve your PCOS in 4 days. But there is so much, there's a lot of unlearning that has to happen around our health and our hormones as women in general, in order to understand when we do have something bigger that's going on, like PCOS, and understanding what exactly is that, which is a lot of what we talked about yesterday. And today we're going deeper. I'm going to help to break down for you the 4 different types of PCOS, because there is not just one type. And this is oftentimes what happens, is that we have a very blanket term, a blanket diagnosis. We slap it on every woman who presents with some of kind of the similar symptoms that are going on, send her on her way with very little education around what's going on and how she can support it, and then wonder why months and years down the road she's still struggling. And here in my company at the Simplicity Project Inc. and inside of the Hormone Project, we try to do the total opposite. The whole mainstay of what I offer in my company, and the reason why I'm spending my time with you here today, is to help you to understand more about what is or could be going on in your body. When you understand more, you're then going to be more successful in putting PCOS into remission, in helping yourself to move out of what might feel like a big struggle for you right now. So thank you for chatting in the sidebar. That helps me to know that you are here and that you have an opportunity and a way to communicate. So that is excellent. I do also have some team support here with me as well. It can be a bit much trying to navigate between a Facebook room and then also here on Zoom. Everything is being recorded. If you registered for this or you are watching this, we'll be posting the recordings in the Facebook group, and we will email it out as well. Okay, so if you joined me yesterday, we were talking about what PCOS is and talking about a lot of the ways that it has been treated. I'm using air quote because most of the ways that women have been treated for PCOS, the birth control pill, IUDs, those types of things, is very similar to how a lot of women and people are treated when they're told they have something called IBS, which is take a lactate pill, just avoid the foods that you know irritate you, and not really given any direction otherwise. And the reason I'm bringing up IBS as a specific example is that when we talk about one of the 4 types of PCOS, inflammatory PCOS, I'm really going to be driving home a lot of info around your gut health, because if you're suffering from PCOS, if you're suffering from honestly any type of hormonal issue and inflammation in your body, and no one has yet taught you what to address when it comes to your digestive system, that could actually be the missing piece for you that could hold a lot of weight in terms of you feeling better and diminishing a lot of the symptoms that you have got. So 4 different types of PCOS. The first one is insulin resistant. Then we have post-pill, which post-pill is temporary, okay? In majority of cases, it is typically, what's the word I want to use here? It is typically no longer an issue for women who specifically had PCOS coming off of the pill as a result of being on the pill within about 12 to 18 months, and not just like naturally poof, it's gone, but by applying some of the things that you're going to learn over these next couple of days. And then we have adrenal PCOS and inflammatory PCOS. So when I talk about words like treating, remission, healing, I need you to listen with both ears open and with a grain of salt here. You have to remember that I don't know you in your specific case. I don't know how long this has been going on for. I don't know the severity of your symptoms. I don't know what you've been told by your doctor or your OBGYN or your functional health practitioner you're working with. I don't know what type of testing you have had or not had. And so you're going to take this as information, and you are going to create a level of discernment for yourself as to whether or not that applies to you or the woman that you're here listening for. Because I know there's a lot of you as mothers that are listening for your daughter's ears today. And then you're going to take with it what you will. So I want to start off with insulin resistant PCOS, because in order to actually feel any better than where you're at right now, you really have to know what you're dealing with. And if you are one of the women that has insulin resistant PCOS, means that you have dysregulated insulin. It's a metabolic syndrome. It's often also times referred to as pre-diabetes. And there's a lot of different symptoms that can come with that. Main things would be that you notice that you have huge tendencies to swing with your blood sugar throughout the day. You're that kind of person that if you don't eat within X amount of hours, you get nauseous, you get headaches, you get dizzy, you're constantly craving and looking for something sweet. You never truly feel satiated. You are a grazer. You don't really eat full, complete meals. You probably also aren't having a really good balance of things like protein, fat, and fiber, which is why you are always looking for your next hit and your next fix. When you are measuring insulin, there's things you need to look for specifically. So if you're doing this based on your blood work, we're going to look at things like your glucose, specifically your fasting glucose. We may look at things like your HbA1c as well, but we want to actually know what your insulin measurement is, okay? The other thing that I recommend a lot in my practice for women who have a lot of these symptoms, and they have the symptoms and they say, yeah, but I eat healthy. Like I do pretty good. You know, I get up in the morning and I add collagen or I add MCT to my coffee, or I drink a smoothie in the morning and then I have a salad with protein at lunch and then I have more vegetables and protein at dinner. So on the surface, feeling like I'm eating healthy and I'm doing all of the things, that doesn't necessarily mean that you have stable blood sugar. If you still don't have energy, if you're not sleeping well throughout the night, if your immune system's not supported, if your recovery isn't fantastic, if your cognition isn't sharp, I can guarantee you there's probably something off with your blood sugar. Now, the other side of that is if you're the woman where you're like, as soon as I get up in the morning, I need something sweet. Like I need to have my toast. I want to have a bagel. I'm craving oatmeal. Like I need to have those carbohydrates or I am completely unhinged. If I'm going to search for something in the house, it's not going to be like salty peanuts. It's going to be chips with salt. It's going to be cookies. It's going to be those types of things. So those are big waving red flags as well, that something could be off. And what I like to do for women who feel overwhelmed by this and who are a bit skeptical, who are like, I don't think that that's probably my issue, is to get them to commit to wearing a continuous glucose monitor for 2 weeks. Now, this is not free. It's going to cost you depending on where you live. So in Canada, there's a good one called Freestyle Libre. I will use this once or twice a year as a checkpoint to see how my body is managing my glucose and my insulin. And it's about $100, $119, depending on where you buy it. You can go to the pharmacy and you can get it. And it's going to give you 2 weeks of data. And it's going to help you understand what your levels are when you wake in the morning, what your levels are after you have eaten certain foods and certain combinations. So for instance, you might think that having your apple and almond butter is a great blood sugar balancing snack for you, but you go and consume that and you notice that your blood sugar actually spikes a little bit. Then that's not a great snack for you. Conversely, you might think that you're eating something that isn't really balancing for your body, and lo and behold, your test will show you otherwise. So it gives you important data to help to understand how your specific body, not your mom's, not your sister's, not your girlfriend, not the coworker who's telling you about her plan, how your body is responding to what you're eating. And if you're actually eating enough. That's another big one I find with a lot of women, is that you are actually not eating enough calories. You are fasting for too long. You are dieting in conjunction with fasting. You have way too many stimulants coming in your body, starting your day with as much coffee as you can, shrinking your eating windows, having alcohol at night. All of these things are going to dysregulate your body's relationship with managing your blood sugar and your insulin. And this is all going to have a direct impact on that HPA axis I taught you about yesterday, on your stress, on your adrenals, on your thyroid, and on your ovaries. And if your insulin is not stable, your ovaries are going to pump out more testosterone. And that whole excess testosterone situation we talked about yesterday, those receptors being desensitized, not converting into estrogen, is going to happen. And it becomes a massive issue in the body. So in PCOS, I am always working with women on getting their blood sugar stable. Eat protein when you wake up in the morning. Make sure that is the macronutrient that you are never skimping on. And when we talk tomorrow about nutrition and movement, I'm going to go deeper on that, but it's so critical because the way that you reverse or that you put insulin resistant PCOS into remission is 100% through what you are eating, through your lifestyle, through your movement, and through your supplements. That's how you have to manage that. Okay. It is not about just giving a woman metformin or telling her that she just needs to eat less or telling her she just needs to lose weight. How are you empowering her to do those things? So you have to stabilize blood sugar, make sure you're moving appropriately, supporting supplement wise, getting you the appropriate rest that you need. And then you have to be consistent. You can't try and do this for a couple of days or only the 2 weeks that you're wearing the glucose monitor and then throw your hands in the air and be like, that didn't work. This is going to take months. PCOS is something that if you think you have it or you have been told that you have it, ladies, you honestly are going to need to commit a minimum of the next 6 to 9, 12 months of your life to really focusing on paying attention to a lot of these levers that I am trying to teach you about. This is not a quick fix. This is not just taking the pill and everything will be fine. Because if you joined me yesterday, you learned that being on that pill, that is a Band-Aid. That is a suppressant. That is the equivalent of saying to all of your symptoms and to your body, shut up. Don't want to hear it anymore. I am irritated by it. Don't have time for it. And so what it does is, okay, all right, I'll be quiet. I won't show you all of the things until you come off the pill. And that's what's leading us into our next section, which is talking about post-pill PCOS. Now, like I said, in most women, this is temporary. And it's pretty common to experience a surge, a temporary surge of those higher androgens when you're coming off the pill. One of the big reasons is that you've been on these chemical hormones for that whole time, which has been suppressing your ovulation. So you've not been releasing an egg. And the second is how it impacts something called your sex hormone binding globulin hormone. So this surge that happens, it can be enough for women to go into a post-pill PCOS scenario where they don't get their period back right away when they come off the pill. They have irregular cycles. They're not ovulating. They present with so many of those same scenarios that I taught you about yesterday. And so this is something where you've got to really focus on educating yourself around that period of time of being on the pill. So if you haven't already, I recommend this book a lot. A colleague of mine, Dr. Jolene Brighton, she's been on the podcast on the Simplicity Sessions. We've talked at great length about this, and she has a book called Beyond the Pill. I highly recommend you purchase this book and you read this and understand it. If you are a mother of a daughter who is currently on the birth control pill, and she is having any type of issues and situations going on with it, I highly recommend that you purchase this book and read it and encourage her to flip through the pages as well. So when I'm working with clients who have post-pill PCOS, the first thing is to try to get them to calm down because this is not a life sentence. The symptoms are part of a temporary drug withdrawal process, okay? We've got to get these out of your system. And so for a period of time, we may have to work on some anti-androgenic things. I'll support them with zinc, possibly some DIM, some peony, some licorice root, and definitely making sure that their gut is working well, right? So when we go on the birth control pill, it is the equivalent to our gut microbiome as a woman of being on an antibiotic. So it really disrupts our hydrochloric acid, our enzymes, the healthy bacteria to the not so healthy bacteria. And so making sure that she is free of gas and bloating, she's digesting what she's eating, she's pooping regularly. If she's not pooping regularly, this is going to be a big issue for trying to help her body to move a lot of these hormones, these chemical hormones that she's had in her system for all the months or years on the pill out. So we always want to come back to asking, what's your drainage like? What are your elimination pathways like? For those of you listening today, maybe you weren't on the pill, but you're like, well, I'm chronically constipated. And not only do I have PCOS, but I can't lose weight. I have headaches all the time. My skin is always an issue for me. Same recommendations. Come back to looking at your gut. When we talk about things like inflammatory PCOS, okay, which is the third version, this is really where the gut and autoimmunity comes in. So chronic inflammation in your body, that is going to stimulate your ovaries to make too much testosterone. And it's a contributing factor for every type of PCOS. So if inflammation is sitting high and it's happening all the time, and that's the primary factor or the primary driver, that is considered to be inflammatory PCOS. So this could mean that you have opportunistic bacteria in the gut. You could have H. pylori. You could have candida and yeast. You could have other pathogens in the gut. You could have parasites. There's also, a whole nother family of issues that can be going on that show up in the gut, like potentially Lyme. There could be mold, there could be heavy metals. There's so many things that we are impacted by in our external environment that can show up in our bodies as women. And you have to remember that our reproductive system, so when it comes to our cycle and our bleed and our ovulation and everything in between, that is our fifth vital sign. That is a huge mechanism of communication in our body. So if something is off anywhere, oftentimes for us as women, that is where it's going to show up. I was just sick for the last week and not feeling very good. And my own period came a couple of days early. Is that because I did anything different in my lifestyle? Is it because I didn't eat enough protein or I wasn't eating enough vegetables or any of those things? It's because my body was under stress because I wasn't feeling well. And when your body recognizes a stress pattern, whether it's you fighting something in terms of a cold, whether it's stress because of your finances, your relationship, whether you just moved somewhere, you've started a new diet, you're exercising too much or too little, your body has all of these sensors that is picking up on all of the feedback and then starts to make executive decisions. And if your body is in a state of stress and not feeling well, it can choose to not ovulate and release an egg that month as a defense mechanism. And it will most definitely change things in how your period shows up, the quality of the blood that you have, all of that. So don't ever take this gift, this period that you have for granted when you're trying to pull things together and connect the dots. It really is telling you a lot. And this is why, as I talked about yesterday, tracking, staying on top of this, recognizing what is normal for your body and what is not normal for your body. So not getting caught up in like, what is the common and normal that your girlfriends are complaining about, or women that you're watching on TikTok or on Instagram or whatever it may be. It's a lot of noise out there. And oftentimes as you can put yourself into what someone else is talking about, sharing or explaining. When you track, when you have your own data, you can visibly look in and be like, well, for me, my cycle is this long, or for me, typically coming into my period, this is how I feel, ... Okay. I hope that makes sense as we're talking about that. So the treatment for inflammatory PCOS is we have to identify and work to correct what that underlying root cause of inflammation is. So is it a food sensitivity? Is there something that you are consuming on a day-to-day basis that your body and your immune system literally do not have the ability to break down? Do you have a sensitivity to corn and you eat corn chips all the time? Do you have a sensitivity to oats and you do overnight oat jars every single night? Do you have a sensitivity to dairy and you have Greek yogurt every day because you're trying to get protein in? Do you have a sensitivity to dairy and you're using whey protein powder in your smoothie because you're trying to get the protein in? Do you have a sensitivity to gluten and you're consuming that because you think that being gluten-free is like a fad and has nothing to do with health? Do you have a sensitivity to oranges, but you keep having citrus every single day? A food inherently in and of itself to look at and say, well, how could I have a sensitivity to oranges? They're so healthy. They're full of vitamin C and antioxidants, and they help to fight against free radicals. Yes, yes, and yes. But what truly makes a food healthy is if it's healthy for your body. Because I can consume something and my body is like, we actually do a really good job with this. But you might consume something and your body is like, this is a heck no. We don't have the ability to digest this. This actually really sets our system off. So again, tracking and understanding what feels good for you and what doesn't. You know when you consume something and don't feel good with it, even if it tastes really good. You know when something makes you feel mucusy. You know when something gives you a headache. You know when something has you running to the bathroom. You know when something gets your stomach, gurgling louder and communicating with you that things are not feeling well. You have to stop ignoring it and you have to really start to pay attention to it. You could have histamine response issues going on, right? So chronic mast cell activation and these histamine intolerances where you're reactive to a lot of things. Not only do you have the digestive issues, but you've got eczema, psoriasis, you have hives that are chronically showing up. You've got a lot of congestion. You always have to clear your throat, blow your nose. These, again, are things you need to be paying attention to. You can't just be that person that's like, well, it's because the weather changed yesterday. It's because the barometric pressure was doing this. Maybe, but why is that a trigger for you? Because again, it's the symptom is not the issue. The symptom is the message. Okay. Or in this case, the messenger. So what is that trying to tell you? This is the difference of going to your doctor, your regular family doctor. You do not have the time in the office with them for them to ask you the questions and to go deeper. So when everybody is like, well, where's the free healthcare and why do I have to pay out of pocket? Because there is no such thing as free healthcare. That's called sick care. That's managing and micromanaging or suppressing the symptoms that you have. You're never going to find health in those offices. I'm sorry, but it's true. You are going to need to invest and work with a functional practitioner, whether it's your naturopath, a holistic nutritionist, a functional medicine practitioner, somebody who specializes specifically in the thing that you are struggling with. And you need to be able to work with someone who is going to hold the space, who is going to ask you these questions, who is going to sit with you and is going to listen and is going to ask you more than just what do you eat? When did your symptoms start? How long ago? Tell me more. What was going on in your life at that time? What have you tried up to now? Can we connect the dots on anything else? Remember, all your symptoms, all your struggles, probably all the things that brought you here today into listening to me, these are not your actual root. These are the limbs. They are connected to something. You've got to go beneath the surface. What is the root? And that's the difficult part as the average individual when this isn't your education. And this is why we need to work with skilled people. This is why we need to run functional testing. It's why we need to do the due diligence and why you need to understand this isn't going to change in a couple of weeks. Okay, you have to have patience if you're committed to your healing. Now, if you've got things like unexplained fatigue, you have chronic gas and bloating, you've been told that you have SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, you constantly have urinary tract infections, you have lots of GI issues, you have a coated tongue, you have headaches all the time, you have lots of joint pain, you've got the skin issues we talked about, you have an autoimmune condition, maybe you have rheumatoid arthritis, maybe you have Hashimoto's thyroiditis, you have nodules on your thyroid. Your gut has to be addressed. This isn't just about going and looking at your hormones. Your hormones are a result of this root of inflammation that is happening systemically in your body. And PCOS is now a symptom and a result of what that inflammation is. So does that make sense how I'm explaining this? That you've got to go beyond what a lot of those surface symptoms are and the things that you are dealing with, okay? You can have what would appear to be all four types at the same time, but specifically, Michelle, if you're asking that, I would say that it most likely started in your gut as the inflammatory, which then contributed to the insulin resistant, that being on the pill did not help. And then the adrenal form of PCOS, which is what we're going to talk about next, is like they're at their maximum tension. So you can most definitely have all of the signs and symptoms of all four of the types. It's more so about trying to understand where's the origin. When we work on one area, any area of your body as a woman, and let's say specifically that we are focusing on your digestive system, and you start to do a protocol where you're using things like biofilm reducers that are starting to kind of calm down that communication of bad bacteria. antimicrobials. You're starting to work at clearing some of that out. So many of your symptoms that you have are going to start to quiet down, are going to feel less aggravated. And then you get to work on the next layer and so on and so forth. So going gluten-free, dairy-free, soy-free, using all non-toxic and supplementing. If you have a root issue that you haven't done the testing to figure out, no, these things will always help you, Megan. Going gluten-free will always help your system because you're decreasing the digestive funk and you are helping to protect your mucosal lining, your secretory IgA, which is literally the retaining wall that is protecting your gut, which is your defense. This is your barrier. Coming off the dairy, you are reducing your exposure to insulin growth factor. Unless you are someone who is having 100% organic, raw, full-fat dairy and you know where it's coming from, that dairy is probably causing you more pain than good. Okay. And then the soys, I mean, that soy conversation is a whole other thing. So don't stop doing those things. But this is what we tend to do is we circumvent and go like, okay, I'll go buy the gluten-free products or I'll come off the food. I can cut, I can eliminate. You become like a ninja doing it in your life without actually understanding what's going on in my body. So if you haven't done something like a GI map, like a poop test, a stool test, okay, we even do these as a family like once a year, okay? My children hate their life sometimes. But we do these because this is how we know. This is the chemistry, okay? And listen, there's no test that's perfect either, but I want to gather as much information as possible and understand what is going on in your gut. Do we need to start to bring something in like some oregano? Do we need to start to bring in some berberine to support you? Do you know when I work with women who have been told to go on metformin and we pull out things like zinc and berberine and oregano, the results that we get in a short period of time compared to them being on a prescription drug like metformin for a long period of time, like you can't even compare the two. So it's understanding truly what it is that's going on in your body. And then it's taking information, something like looking at your poop, your actual fecal matter, which is the end result of what it is. This is why I will never sit here and say to you, you can learn everything just from your blood work. Blood work is important. But so is looking at your poop, so is testing your urine, so is potentially looking at your saliva. There's so many different factors. And when you are dealing with something or you've been dealing with it for so long and you feel like the only solution is to go on the medication, and that's not a solution. Being told you're just going to have to go on this, that's not a solution. Why is your body presenting with all this inflammation? Why is your body presenting in this way? That's a lazy ass approach from a practitioner to just say medication is the only route. You've got to dig deeper and you have to be willing to work with someone and understand the time it is going to take to start to unravel all of this. You are welcome. Greek yogurt is not dairy-free. Kefir is not dairy-free if it's been grown with dairy. So now kefir, you can do water kefir, you can do coconut kefir. And again, like don't lose sight of the big picture here. Don't lose the plot and focus on like just that dairy piece. Look to things in the beginning that are going to reduce the inflammation toll on your body. This isn't that you can never, ever have these things. But what you will start to notice, Kathleen, is that when you take these things out for a lengthy period of time, and you can't be kind of gluten-free or kind of dairy-free, meaning you can't be like, okay, I'll stop having the yogurt, but I still want to have my cheese, or I still want to have that whey protein powder, or I still want to go and have, the crackers that I'm having that are gluten-free that have buttermilk in them, or I'm still going to have this. So if you're going to commit, I would say give yourself at least 3 to 4 solid weeks of like, no, right? No. Hold on, Amanda. My dog is hardcore snoring in the background. She's like, move along. This is boring, Mom. I hear you talk about this all the time. Give yourself at least 3 to 4 weeks of coming off some of these big offenders. And then when you do start to add them back in, you will probably start to notice things like you break out a couple of days later. Your stool is a little bit more mucousy or a little bit more pellety, or it's a little muckier. You will start to pay attention, notice these things, but it's very difficult when and if you're trying to do all of that at one time. So a lot of those things I just talked about, that would be your inflammatory. Now, adrenal PCOS, this is oftentimes where most women, like I said yesterday, and we've talked today as well, who have PCOS, they have an elevated level of androgens, including testosterone and androstenedione. And this is from the ovaries, and DHEA from the adrenal glands, okay? If you only have elevated DHEAS, the sulfated form, that's specifically with what we would see in the Dutch test, but your testosterone otherwise is normal, then you may have adrenal PCOS. And this accounts for a smaller amount of women. Typically, it's about 10% of women will have adrenal PCOS. And I don't tend to see this one often in my practice, where we have women who have, very low androgens and still have a lot of these symptoms. And the only thing that's elevated is the DHEA. When I have seen it, this woman is typically under a lot of stress. So her adrenal PCOS is not driven by her insulin. It's not driven by inflammation. It is been upregulated, her body's response, by tremendous trauma or stress that has been happening in her life. And so typically then we're going to look at things like what's going on with her minerals. Where do we need to be supporting that? How do we support her adrenals? How do we support her nervous system in conjunction with making sure that she is getting all the foundational support that she needs from her nutrients, so things that she is taking? What is she consuming? Things that she is putting in her body. I am most definitely not going to have this woman whose adrenals are not doing well and her cycle and ovulation is showing symptoms as a result. I am not having her do extended long periods of fasting. I'm probably not having her go beyond 12 hours. Right? So she's eating dinner at 6:30. She's going to be up and eating something by 6:37 the next day, and working at recalibrating her system. So this for me is kind of the danger zone with women, is that we hear something like fasting is good, period. Not understanding that we are not men, that the majority of the research has been done on men, that we are cyclical women. And if you have a woman who is having a difficult time with her cycle, with her body truly moving through 4 phases of her follicular and then her ovulatory, her luteal, and her menstrual cycles going throughout the month, this is not an appropriate time to be incorporating fasting. What is important and what is appropriate is to teach her how to balance her blood sugar, to teach her how to truly take care of her body, to teach her not to overdo it with exercise, but to still move her body on a regular basis, to teach her the priority of her sleep, to teach her how to manage the level of stress that she's feeling, and to witness it come up and recognize how much of an impact it has on her. Okay, so we just, as women, we're constantly being told that it is all about shove it in this box. And if you do this, this will help. And I know there's a lot of fasting experts out there and a lot of other women's health experts out there that will say that fasting can actually heal the adrenals, and fasting can support insulin resistance, and fasting can be the thing to support PCOS. Yes, and you have to understand the individual case. That is not a blanket statement that should be applied for all women who are suffering. So you have to go back through a lot of the things I've talked about today. Where do you fit in that? If you have a lot of the gut issues and the inflammation, please start working on that. If you have the insulin resistance that I talked about, the insatiable cravings, you're not losing weight, all of those things, please start to work on that. If you're a woman who has recently come off the pill, go and purchase Beyond the Pill by Dr. Jolene Brighton. And if you are a woman who is under a tremendous amount of stress, and it is your adrenals and it is your thyroid that you really feel are at the root of what's going on, you need to seek out appropriate help and care for that. Okay, so there's a lot of ways as women that you are being asked to rise up right now and to use your voice and to be courageous and bold. And your health is one of those where you need to be that woman. You need to ask for the help. You need to reach out. You need to take the hand when it's being extended to you. And you have to ask different questions, right? You have to become a detective of your health. No one is going to come and rescue you and do this work for you. Your doctor's not going to do it. Your mom will try really hard to do it, but you're not going to listen to her. You have to be willing to do it for yourself. And so if you're confused, if you kind of don't know where to turn, if you have more questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us. I'm not telling you that I can answer every single question that comes in. Again, I don't know you personally or your health history, but this is also what we do as a team, is try to learn more about you and what is going on. So you can always book a complimentary call with one of our wellness advisors and share your story, what has been going on. And we will very honestly let you know whether or not it's something that we feel is in our wheelhouse and that we can support you with. And if it is not, then refer you out to someone who can. So those are the four types. Those are the four types of PCOS. I hope today has been an interesting one for you. I hope you have learned something and taken something away from this. Feel free to slide into my DMs on Instagram, Jen Pike, or into my Facebook personal messages, and myself or someone else from my team will get back to you. And you can also email us directly, hello@jenpike.com. Tomorrow, we're going to be in here talking all about nutrition and about movement. And we're going to be focusing on the things to start to bring into your body. And we're going to lead in with that, not starting off with all the things that you need to cut out. So have a beautiful rest of your day, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Take care, everyone.